Please video like and subscribe this channel. The storm did not announce itself. It simply swallowed the horizon. One moment, the frozen plain of Nareth 9 stretched endlessly beneath a pale blue sky, jagged ice ridges glittering like broken glass. The next, the wind screamed, white snow erased distance and direction, and the temperature plummeted so fast it felt like the world itself was exhaling death. Era felt it first, the tremor in her boots, the subtle failure of her thermal weave. She stopped walking and raised her arm, scanning the blizzard with a wrist-mounted sensor already flickering red. "Lysa," she said through chattering teeth, "we need shelter. Now." Her younger sister stumbled beside her, clutching the cracked power core they'd spent 6 days retrieving from the wrecked scout ship. Frost clung to Lysa's lashes, and the soft bioluminescent markings along her temples, once a calm violet, had dimmed to a sickly blue. "I know," Lysa whispered. "But the map says the outpost is only." The wind ripped her words away. Era cursed under her breath. The map had said many things since their crash. Most of them had been lies. They had not meant to be here. No one ever meant to be stranded on Nareth 9, a dead world locked in perpetual winter, circling a dying star at the edge of explored space. Their mission had been simple: survey an abandoned human mining station, recover any usable technology, and leave before the next orbital shift. Routine salvage. Then the storm hit early. Their ship went down hard, torn open like fragile bone against the ice. The distress beacon failed within minutes. And suddenly, routine became survival. Era tightened her grip on Lysa's arm, forcing her to stop. "Listen to me. The storm's accelerating. If we keep walking blind, we'll fall into a crevasse or freeze before nightfall." Lysa's lips trembled. "If we stop, we freeze anyway." Era didn't answer, because that was the truth she was trying not to say out loud. She scanned the terrain again. Visibility was down to a few meters, but through the swirling snow she spotted something darker than the white and uneven rise in the ice. "Over there," Era said. "Cave or ridge? It's something." They pushed forward, step by brutal step, until the shape resolved into a shallow ice overhang carved by centuries of wind. Not shelter, not really, but it would block the worst of the storm. They collapsed beneath it, backs pressed to frozen stone. Era activated her last thermal cell, wrapping the weak heat field around them like a dying heartbeat. The silence that followed was worse than the storm. Lysa leaned her head against Era's shoulder. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "If I hadn't insisted on retrieving the core." "Stop," Era said gently. "You did what any of us would have done. That core could power a colony for years." Lysa gave a hollow laugh. "If anyone finds it." Era didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the sensor readout burning into her wrist display. Core temperature, dropping. Suit integrity, compromised. Estimated survival time, 16 minutes. She swallowed hard. "Era," Lysa said softly. "Tell me something. Anything. Do you think anyone's ever really alone in the universe? Or do we just miss each other?" The question hit harder than the cold. Before Era could answer, the ground shuddered. At first, she thought it was the storm intensifying, but then came a sound that didn't belong to Nareth 9, a deep, rhythmic thrum cutting through the wind. Engines. Era shot to her feet, heart hammering. She peered into the white chaos, activating her visor's magnification. At the edge of visibility, a shape emerged, angular, dark, unmistakably artificial. A human dropship. "No," Lysa breathed. "That's impossible. This sector was cleared decades ago." The ship hovered low, antigraphs whining as it fought the storm. A floodlight cut through the snow, sweeping the wasteland like a searching eye. Era waved frantically, triggering her suit's emergency flare. A weak orange pulse flared against the white. The light stopped. The ship shifted direction, descending. Moments later, the hatch slammed open and a figure leapt down into the storm, moving with practiced urgency. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in heavy human survival armor scarred with old burns and patches. His visor glowed amber as he scanned the terrain. "There you are," he muttered, voice distorted by his helmet. Era froze, not from cold this time, but shock. The human knelt beside them, already pulling a thermal blanket from his pack. "Easy. You're safe now." Safe. The word felt unreal. He worked fast, efficient, hand steady as he reinforced their failing heat field and injected them with warming compounds. Lysa sagged against Era, eyes fluttering. "You picked a hell of a place to die," the human said grimly. "Lucky for you, I don't like leaving bodies behind." Era found her voice. "Why are you here?" The man paused, then glanced up at the storm. "Same reason anyone ends up on Nareth 9. Lost once. Came back on purpose." He helped them to their feet, guiding them toward the ship. Inside, warmth hit Era like a physical blow. She nearly collapsed, but the human caught her easily. "Name's Jonah," he said as he sealed the hatch. "Independent courier. Salvage runner. Professional bad decision maker." Lysa managed a weak smile. "Thank you." Jonah nodded once, as if gratitude were something he didn't quite know how to hold. "Get some rest. You're not dying today." The middle days blurred together as the storm raged on. Jonah's ship, the Wayfarer, was old but stubborn, patched together with technology from half a dozen species. It hummed like a living thing, holding the cold at bay while the blizzard howled outside. Era learned quickly that Jonah was not a soldier, though he moved like one. He'd been stranded on Nareth 9 years ago, lost his crew, and survived long enough to swear the planet wouldn't claim him twice. He'd turned the old mining station into a refuge, a place for the lost. "People think space is empty," he told them one night as they shared a meal of recycled protein and spiced algae. "But it's full of folks who fell through the cracks." Lysa listened intently, color slowly returning to her markings. "You saved us." Again. Jonah shrugged. "Someone saved me once. That's how it works." As repairs continued and the storm finally began to weaken, Era found herself watching Jonah when he wasn't looking, the careful way he rationed power, the quiet respect he showed their alien customs without being asked. For the first time since the crash, hope didn't feel fragile. But Nareth 9 was never done with its tests. On the 7th day, seismic alarms blared through the station. A massive ice shelf fractured, sending shockwaves toward the outpost. Jonah's monitors flashed warnings in angry red. "If that shelf collapses," he said, already running, "this whole place goes with it." They worked together, human and alien, racing against time. Lysa stabilized the failing reactor core they'd recovered. Era rerouted power through frozen conduits with numb hands. Jonah wrestled the engines back to life. The ground shook violently. "Now!" Jonah shouted. They launched just as the station vanished beneath a cascade of ice, the Wayfarer clawing into the sky amid falling debris. Silence followed. Stars emerged beyond the thinning clouds, cold and beautiful. Lysa laughed, a breathless, disbelieving sound. Era felt tears freeze on her cheeks. They were alive. Weeks later, the Wayfarer drifted toward a populated system, lights of distant stations twinkling like promise. Lysa stood at the viewport. "We could return home now," she said. "Tell them what happened." Era nodded, but her gaze was on Jonah, hands steady on the controls. "What will you do?" Era asked him. He hesitated. "Probably keep flying. There are always more storms." Era exchanged a look with Lysa, a silent understanding formed in the frozen wasteland. "You don't have to be alone out there," Lysa said gently. Jonah met their eyes, something unguarded flickering across his face. "You sure about that?" Error smiled. "We're very hard to lose." The Wayfarer adjusted its course, carrying them forward not as survivors clinging to luck, but as companions who had found each other at the edge of nowhere. And somewhere behind them, Nareth 9 howled into the void, denied its prize.